and welcome to the Classical Guitar Practice Room. I'm James Caldwell. This is another video in the Easy Repertoire Series, and this is the third variation in Ferdinando Carulli's Waltz in 3 variations. So this is the fourth in this series of that collection, the fourth and final video, variation 3. These 24 measures are set up just like the waltz in the previous 2 variations, with all of the chords being centered around C, G7, and on the third line, A minor and E7. Let's take a look at the first measure here. Okay, the first measure is a C chord. So with the left hand, you'll need your third finger on the 5th string and your first finger on the 2nd string, 1st fret. The pattern for the right hand here is thumb on the 5th string, I on the 3rd string, M on the 2nd string, another I, then an A on the 1st string, P, I, M, I, A. Now notice that there is an inverted triangle above the last note there, the E and the A finger. That is telling us to play that note with a rest stroke. And also note that that note is an 8th note, whereas the preceding notes were 16th notes. So that note does have a longer time value, and we want to emphasize it slightly. And so with the right hand, everything is free stroke except that last note. And when the A finger comes in on the 1st string, just let it come to rest on the B string. Second measure is the simple G7 chord. It only requires the first finger on the 1st string at the 1st fret for the left hand. In the right hand, the thumb is now on the 4th string. We have that same pattern of P, I, M, I, A. That last note also being a rest stroke. Third measure is another C chord. It's just like the first measure. So the right hand thumb is now back on the 5th string for the bass note, P, I, M, I, A. Rest stroke on that last note. In the 4th measure, we have a little scale walk down here. The notes are D, C, B, A, G. And they are telling us to play that M-I. We want to alternate straight through that line. M-I, M-I, M. There is a rest stroke indicator over the first note, M. And to me, that doesn't make sense because it's a rather quick run, straight 16th notes until the last note. Either they intended to put that at the end of the measure, like in the previous 3 measures, or it's something I just don't understand. But I play that run all free stroke except for the last note. That G I play with a rest stroke, and my M finger comes to rest on the D string. 5th measure and 6th measure are just the same as measures 1 and 2. C chord, P, I, M, I, A. We want to do the same thing here even though it's not indicated. P, I, M, I, A with a rest stroke on the last note. 6th measure is the simple G7. Our right hand thumb is now on the 4th string D. P, I, M, I, A, rest stroke at the end. And 7th measure, we have a scale run that walks up. And just like the 4th measure, it's telling us to play a rest stroke on the 1st note, which again, to me, doesn't make sense. This measure is all 16th notes. There are 6 of them here. I would just play this as a straight free stroke run. Starting with M though, M, I, M, I, M, I. The notes are G, A, B, C, D, B. And I would stick with just a free stroke alternation, M, I, M, I, M, I. 8th measure is an octave of C's. Right hand will play that with the thumb on the 5th string and the M finger on the 2nd string. So let me play through these first 8 measures, the first line. There is a repeat symbol at the end of that last measure, so if you were performing this, you would play through that line again before moving on to the second line. On to the second line. The bass note here is an F on the 4th string, and as in the previous variation, if you have learned that one, we're going to have a high G here at the end of this measure. We have to play that note with the 4th finger on the left hand. The right hand pattern here is the same one that was established in the first line, P, I, M, I, A, with a rest stroke on that last note. Measure 2, the bass note drops to E. We get a C on the second string. We still have this high G at the end of that measure. When you're practicing these two measures, it's good to keep the little finger down on that first string G note. So the first measure, we have F in the bass on the fourth string. Now as I change chords, I keep the pinky down. I lift the third finger. I put the second finger down on E, drop the first finger in on C, and the fourth finger is already there on G. If you can balance your hand on the little finger for that chord change, it helps that note just to ring on through. It sounds nice. On to the third measure. It's a simple G7 here. First finger on the first fret of the first string. Fourth measure is the C chord. Fifth and sixth measures are like the first two here. F in the bass, high G. Switching to E in the bass, a C and G. Now in the seventh measure, we have a bass note of D, and we have this scale walk down here. F, D, C, B, A, G. We want to alternate through that M, I, M, I, M, I. M, I, M, I, M, I. And in the eighth measure, we have an octave of C's with the right hand, thumb, and M. So let me play through this second line for you. Also, the last measure here has a repeat. So in performing it, you would play that line twice and then move on to the third line. First measure of the third line is a simple A minor chord. We'll have our first finger on the second string C and our second finger on the third string A. Right hand pattern is the same as the previous lines here. To begin, our thumb is on the fifth string A. We have P, I, M, I, A with a rest stroke there. Second measure is the same as the first, P, I, M, I, A. Now, measures 3 and 4, there's a whole lot of alternation going on here. They're suggesting we start with the I finger on this G sharp. Notice that the third measure, the bass note is E, the sixth string. So we're going to alternate here, I on G sharp, M on A, I on B, M on C, I on D, M on E. I, M, I, M, I, M. And in the fourth measure, I will begin on the D note. Now the bass note is A on the fifth string. I, M, and I on that last A. Whole bunch of 16th notes here, those two measures. That last note is an eighth note, so it's a little longer. You want to hold that A. Fifth and sixth measures, it's back to that A minor chord, same as the first two measures. P, I, M, I, A, P, I, M, I, A. Seventh measure, 16th note scale run here. E in the bass and G sharp on the third string, starting with I. A, B, C, D, B. I, M, I, M, I, M. And the eighth measure is two A's, thumb, and I. Let me play through the third line. A minor, P, I, M, I, A. I, M, I, M, I, M, I, M, I, M, I. I, M, I, M, I, M, I. That line also has a repeat at the end, so you would play that line twice and then follow the instruction D, C, Al, Fine, which tells us to go back to the beginning and play through the first line, through the second line, till we see the finish there. That completes my look at Carulli's Waltz in 3 variations. This is the 4th video. If you've missed the waltz or either of the first 2 variations, go look for my videos where I discuss those in detail and practice them. Thank you for watching this video and for looking at Carulli's 3rd variation of his Waltz in 3 variations with me. I hope that you found it helpful and that you will practice these pieces and learn each of them and play them all together. Subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more easy repertoire pieces and other discussions related to classical guitar. Until next time, I've been James Caldwell.